You already understand tokens, yield farms, and stablecoins. Real-world assets are the next step. On-chain tokens that represent claims on off-chain value and cash flows. In this module, we'll map familiar TradFi mechanics onto the DeFi primitives you already use. So RWAs feel like an extension of what you know, not a brand new language. Real-world assets are not about literally putting a building or a bond on-chain. They're about turning a messy off-chain situation into a clean, enforceable claim you can hold as a token. There are three pieces: the asset generating value, the legal rights that say who gets that value, and the token that represents those rights on-chain. The legal structure is the anchor. It connects the token's promises to real contracts, real entities, and ultimately, real cash flows. An RWA pipeline is basically how boring real-world cash flows become a DeFi primitive. First, someone selects an asset with a clear risk, return profile, treasuries, mortgages, invoices, and so on. Then a legal entity, often an SPV or trust, holds that asset and issues claims against it. Next, oracles and servicers keep on-chain data aligned with off-chain valuations and payments. Finally, a smart contract mints tokens that represent slices of those claims, so DeFi users can hold, trade, or lever them like any other asset. You can think of an RWA token as a pipe that channels predictable off-chain cash flows into on-chain yield. At the top of the pipe are real payments, rent from tenants, or coupons from a treasury bond. Those flows are collected by an off-chain legal vehicle and converted into stablecoins under fixed rules. Smart contracts then distribute those stablecoins to token holders. Your token doesn't just point to an asset. It encodes your place in that future cash flow stream. In most DeFi yield farms, returns come from inflationary token emissions or protocol fee subsidies. Your main risk is that the token dumps or TVL escapes, and yield usually collapses once incentives stop. RWA yield works differently. The engine is real-world rents, loan interest, or treasury returns. The primary risk is credit, borrowers defaulting, collateral losing value, or assets underperforming. Sustainability now follows real economic conditions, not just a reward schedule, which gives the yield a fundamentally different profile. RWAs feel new, but the mechanics will look familiar. You still stake something, often stablecoins, and you still earn yield through vaults that resemble LP positions. You still compare APYs, lockup periods, and exit penalties, just like any other DeFi farm. Risk also spans a spectrum, from safe, treasury-style vaults to leveraged, higher-yield credit pools. And composability remains central. RWA tokens can serve as collateral, sit in lending markets, or be bundled into structured products, extending the same Lego-like behavior you already use. When you buy an RWA token, your claim sits across two very different enforcement systems. On-chain, smart contracts decide who owns what and when payouts happen. If the code says you get paid, the system will execute. Off-chain enforcement relies on contracts, courts, and regulators. Bridging the two are oracles, servicers, and custodians, off-chain actors that translate real-world events into on-chain data. So your core RWA risk question becomes, at which points am I relying on people and institutions instead of pure code? Use stablecoins as your baseline mental model for RWAs. A stablecoin is just a token that represents a claim on a pool of assets targeting $1 in value. There's no magic, only collateral and redemption rules. Some are over-collateralized with on-chain crypto like DAI. Others are backed by bank deposits and treasuries like USDC. RWAs simply generalize this idea beyond dollars and stablecoin use cases. Now imagine two versions of the same dollar-backed token. In the first, the backing asset earns 5% in treasuries, but the issuer keeps that yield. You get price stability only, like a traditional fiat-backed stablecoin. Yield-bearing RWAs flip that model. The same 5% from treasuries is structurally routed to you, the holder. That yield can appear as a rebasing balance, a slowly rising token price, or periodic distributions. Conceptually, it's closer to C tokens or STET-ET. The token is your claim on both principal and the ongoing income. It helps to see collateral types as a spectrum of trade-offs. Purely crypto-backed systems are capital inefficient, but minimize counterparty risk, because code and on-chain collateral do the enforcement. Their scalability tracks crypto market cycles, and users typically don't capture underlying yield. Fiat-backed stablecoins are capital efficient and scalable, but introduce bank and custodian risk, and issuers usually keep the yield. RWA-backed structures aim to combine the strengths, efficient and scalable, while passing real-world yield on-chain, but at the cost of higher legal and counterparty complexity. When you evaluate any RWA, break the asset into three questions. First, the legal claim. Are you effectively a lender or an equity holder? Where do you sit in the capital stack? Senior, mezzanine, or junior? That hierarchy decides who gets paid first if something goes wrong. Second, the risk profile. What can fail with borrowers, collateral values, or the legal wrapper that's supposed to enforce your rights? Third, the payout logic. In practice, how does value reach you? Through rebasing, price appreciation, or periodic distributions? Use this as a Rosetta Stone between TradFi RWAs and DeFi. Borrowers off-chain map to wallets on-chain. The legal SPV contract plays a similar role to a smart contract defining rights and cash flows. Rents and coupons mirror protocol emissions that pay yield. Subordination tranches behave like tiered liquidity mining, shifting risk and reward between classes of investors. And where courts enforce outcomes off-chain, slashing and liquidations enforce them programmatically on-chain. The primitives are recognizable. The wrappers and enforcement mechanisms change. RWAs extend the DeFi world you already know, but plug it directly into real economic activity. When you see an RWA opportunity, start with three checks. First, understand the legal claim and the SPV or structure you're actually buying into. Second, trace how Oracle data is produced, updated, and governed. Third, compare APY, liquidity, and composability against your usual DeFi plays. Do that consistently, and RWAs become another familiar tool in your DeFi portfolio, not a black box.